Imagine being put into a self-made prison, mentally trapped within your own mind and the nightmares that have haunted it for far too long. Imagine you're armed to the teeth with weapons you've never seen before, and there's an unrelenting rage burning inside of you. This is what we refer to as The Suffering, a PlayStation 2 game developed by Midway all the way back in March 2004. It also had an Xbox release that same year. The Suffering was introduced to me at an awkward time in my youth. I hadn't yet played violent video games when this one hit the market. Being an adult is so cool sometimes because now I get to relive the game the way I was meant to play it, and with the right mindset after all these years, I'm finally ready to bring it back and shed some light on it. Because The Suffering, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the coolest games made for the PlayStation 2, even today. From its gritty, captivating story of thrilling narratives to its worn down, dreary, and gray atmosphere, this is a PS2 gem that didn't get the attention it deserved. Memorable quotes, characters, locations, and scenes are sprinkled throughout the game as souvenirs in the player's mind, forever encapsulating the dread of this doomed society. In The Suffering, you play as an inmate named Torque. That's a fucking awesome name, by the way. We learn very early on that Torque was arrested and brought to Carnet Island after he supposedly murdered his wife and children in horrendous ways. With a really dark history like that, it's no wonder this game's protagonist stood out so well. The idea of Carnet Island is spooky, too. Imagine an entire fucking island full of the biggest and baddest weirdos to exist, constantly talking shit to one another and turning awful discussions into reality. The first chapter of the game is properly titled The Worst Place on Earth. Carnet Island's not only a prison for the mentally unstable, it's also a strange historic location that has a troubled background with something festering inside of it. Taking control of the infamous Torque, you have to fight your way out of this place when, all of a sudden, these strange creatures begin crawling out of the dark, murdering the inhabitants of the island prison.
Slick, what in the fuck just happened? Slick! Slick! Goose, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. And it wasn't me, if that's what you're thinking. I didn't touch that.
What was that? Goose? For fuck's sake, what's going on? That was close. I thought we were done for. We gotta get out of this shit can before it collapses. Shit. There's something in here. It's in here! Help me! No!
There's lots to cover here. As always, we gotta bring it way back to the beginning of my first hands-on experience with this PlayStation 2 gem that I didn't deserve to play. As a kid, my mom's friend was very close with our family. Her friend's son, Andy, happened to own a copy of The Suffering on PlayStation 2. Unlike other kids at my age, Andy didn't mind sharing his consoles and stuff with me, so it was nice to be able to play some M-rated games without my parents around. One of those games was The Suffering, and it felt very much like discovering the dark web for the first time. If you were a child and someone got you this game, they must have never looked beyond the front cover. It's truly one of the more intense PlayStation titles as compared to the console's main catalog. There's tons of graphic imagery and disturbing dialogue. Blood, guts, dead bodies, people getting sliced and diced, writings on the wall that are barely legible. You get the idea. This place is a fucking prison, and it feels like one. What's arguably worse is Torque often sees these visions that pop up out of nowhere during certain story segments. They might act as a jump scare, but the most disturbing aspect is that these images only flash for a second, granting you little time to examine them. One of these images is so fucked up, I can't help but mention it. Torque is said to have murdered his two sons alongside his wife. One of the kids was thrown out of a window. In a disgustingly twisted way, the player is manipulated with images of the kids after they met their fates. There's a very unique animation that plays if Torque remains idle for too long. He will drop a small photograph out of his pocket. As he begins picking it up, it's clear that he can barely even look without wincing. The photo is of Torque's kids and ex-wife. You can view this photo and other files at any time by navigating the D-pad and equipping notes with the R1 button. The game has this constant tone of guilt, gaslighting, and shame. This is a lot for any sane person to take in. Imagine how kids like myself felt when we played this for the first time, killed our first enemy, then turned it off because we were too busy wiping the shit out of our draws from fear. Now, even as a grown man, it still has some dark and really bitter moments that reflect on one's personality. It's an experience that's always making you doubt yourself, hinting that you're guilty of past mistakes and they're gonna continue to pile up. Somewhere in the back of our minds, the words "what if" are rotting away, creating an interesting dynamic between the player and the game's environment. Sitting here and playing it as an adult is ethereal, but it's obvious why this game worked so well. The weapon compendium was pretty cool for a PS2 game, but I'll get more into that later. The enemies are all fine-tuned, each with their own set of attacks and skills. There's an ancient bestiary in the notebook screen that allows you to learn a little more about the creatures you're fighting as you try to escape the prison and, ultimately, your past. Torque is a mute, which is totally fine. Back then, it was pretty common for main protagonists to be silent, which helped the players feel more immersed and in control. If they had given Torque a voice actor with all sorts of cheesy one-liners, the game would suck dick and I wouldn't be talking about it. The voice actors that are present do a really good job. It has the same voice actor of every male citizen from the Half-Life 2 saga.
Hold it right there, or I will cut you down! You hear me, inmate? Do you hear me?
Give him a chance.
Ah, to hell with protocol. Everything's gone to shit. Right now, I'd prefer a murdering scumfuck from the road to one of those monstrosities.
And oddly enough, Dallas is performed by Lamar Davis's voice actor from Grand Theft Auto 5. Jesus, I never saw that coming.
Torque, man, we gotta watch out. Those fucking cutters are everywhere in here. But this is the only way to go, man, if we gonna bounce up out of this shithole. Look, Torque, you the badass killing machine, not me. You better take this shit. Fuck yeah, I found the gap. I don't feel so naked now. I won't be able to smoke them like you can, but I got your back.
Well, how about one more? Later on in the game, Torque meets Lewis from Left 4 Fucking Dead. It's a reunion, for Christ's sakes.
Thanks, man. I would've gotten out of there myself, but you just sped the shit up. Hey, sorry about trying to blow you up back there, but I thought you were a hack. Look, I've been in Abbott too long, damn it. Look, I ain't going back, you feel me? Come on, we gotta get to the lighthouse.
Step to your grave, motherfucker!
I definitely think some of the game's writing is a bit off. A lot of it seems to have been made for the sole purpose of shocking the audience. I mean, I grew up with The Punisher for the PlayStation 2, and I remember having to mute the fucking television all the time because of how often the characters curse. That's a story for another day, though. This game's idea of edgy, in my opinion, was a little over the top. There's always a bunch of cursing, unsettling conversations, including vulgarities about the disgusting crimes some inmates have committed. If it's not a sentence full of bad words, it's a cutscene showing a hollowed corpse ridden with electricity that speaks to you in a menacing Long Island accent.
I've been here a long time. I don't understand much about this place, but I know your being here ain't no coincidence.
One really cool feature for its time was the ability to enter first or third person view. Think about that for a fucking second. A new game wouldn't possibly dream of having this option. It's not like it was necessary, but having the freedom to switch the camera at any point made this such a memorable experience. Slayers are the bladed creatures that harass Torque for majority of the game's playtime. They're probably the most common ones. They have some unique movesets, like lunging at Torque with intense speed or climbing on the ceilings and walls. These things are no joke, especially on harder difficulties. Marksmen are the giant guys with assault rifles protruding from their backs. Carnet Island's history states that there were secret experiments going on during the World War II era, which is why these monstrosities exist. They're spongy, but not too difficult to put to rest. Just be mindful of their accuracy, or you'll take some serious damage in a quick amount of time. Distancing yourself and keeping a solid object between you and them will also help a lot. Mainliners are these little grubby bastards that throw needles and shit at you. Ugh, fuck. They're really hard to avoid. They can lunge at Torque and force him into some weird QTE minigame. Get off me, you fucking shitworm. There's tons of them. Though they have a small amount of health, they're capable of morphing into a liquid state and traveling to a flank position, surprising the player from different angles. Burrowers are these giant sacks of shit that conceal themselves under the surface of the earth. They emerge with these long tendrils of barbed wire, heavily injuring Torque with each vicious blow. They're not that hard, but I've found their health to be inconsistent at times. Just watch for the dirty bubbles on the floor and stay away from the fucking things. Fester? Don't even get me started. This aquatic hippopotamus is impossible to kill with conventional ammunition. Instead, you have to use throwables like Molotovs or dynamite sticks. Once they die, their stomachs open and a horde of angry explosive rats will chase after Torque. Although I find them to be a bit creative, I can't help but feel they're the lamest enemy thus far. Actually, nope, I take that back, because the Inferno creatures are fucking awful. They are not fun to fight. They feel like a chore. They just set themselves ablaze and trap you in a wall of fire, which is almost unavoidable. Ugh, get the fuck out of the way, Torque, you're burning to a crisp. There's a lot of cool moments that require a bit of thinking in order to bypass. Thanks to the mainliner's unique ability, they can respawn indefinitely so long as they have a water source. Turning off these showers is the only way to kill them for good in this section, otherwise you'll go through all the ammo in your guns very quickly. I remember I got stuck in this room for hours as a kid. A clever trap for a first-time player. Speaking of guns, now it's time to talk about the standard lineup in terms of horror games. You've got the revolver, which can be dual-wielded at some point. Once you get the option to do so, you're basically unstoppable. They have a high reload speed, as well as double the damage. The Tommy gun is fast and capable of slaying multiple foes with one magazine. It's a versatile firearm, but ammunition is a bit more scarce than the other guns. The pump shotgun is extremely effective at many ranges, capable of transforming most enemies into a rainstorm of bloody gibs. I'm impressed with the amount of detailed gore that this game offered at the time. It kinda reminds me of Dead Space. The Shiv, believe it or not, is not as ineffective as I once believed. You can infinitely interrupt enemy attacks. This can help you conserve ammunition, but you'll more than likely take some damage. I suggest you wait until later on when Torque unlocks the Fire Axe. It's much more powerful than the Shiv at the cost of a slower swing. Torque also unlocks a flamethrower way later into the game, but it doesn't really do anything that the other guns don't. It's effective for every situation, but less satisfying to wield. I prefer the dual revolver and shotgun Tommy gun combo. They add a sweet pace to the experience. You're given defensive items such as flashbangs, dynamite, flares, molotovs, and other useful tools to throw at the enemies from a safe distance, blinding them, sending their arms and legs flying. It's a brutal yet satisfactory combat system. It helps in tight spaces to switch to the convenient first-person view, albeit the mechanic itself is a little primitive. And although the dialogue and gameplay itself try to throw tons of shady material at you, it's told in a cohesive manner and presented to us in a horrific yet addicting gameplay loop, allowing us to choose how we want to attack the various enemies that Torque comes across. Torque uses a pharmaceutical drug known as Zombium to regain health. Just like painkillers from Max Payne, Zombium is the solution to your ailments. You can stack them up to 9 bottles, which is very helpful during the long combat sections with lots of fighting. I find it neat that you can see posters of the drug riddled throughout the prison. In the main story, there are 3 antagonists who seem heavily interested in Torque, often stirring the pot in order to get the desired reaction out of him that they need. There's Horace, the mutilated prisoner, Dr. Killjoy, a pretty stereotypical but charming villain, and then there's the skinny green dude named Hermes, who kinda reminds me of the Crypt Keeper. These 3 act as the new rulers of the island, spreading violence and bloodshed after the years of historic abuse and neglect associated with Carnet. As you progress and meet these guys at certain intervals, you're always being pushed to the brink. They insult you, belittle you, and say wild things when you least expect it, trying to wiggle their way into Torque's mind. In a sense, it's very effective, because if you let Torque's sanity meter hit the roof, you'll be given the opportunity to show these bastards what a real monster looks like. Torque has the ability to transform into this giant fucking bladed arm monstrosity, and he can tear enemies apart. This has to be the most satisfying rage mode I've ever witnessed in a game. What the fuck even happened? Did Torque turn into Killer fucking Croc? I'm not complaining, it's one of the coolest mechanics that a younger me could never forget. There is a bit of a stipulation though. If you wait too long to transform back to your human self, you'll take a large amount of damage and possibly die. Again, I really like this mechanic because it demonstrates what anger can do to someone. I know the entire game's narrative is based on actions committed with anger, but this makes sense. If you don't take control of your emotions, you'll only end up hurting yourself. It's said that Carnet Island brings out the worst in everyone, and if that's the case, I'd really hate to be Torque right about now. The ability to save at any time, anywhere is always welcome, and I'll continue pointing it out in these underrated games. Torque has to use his brain for a bit more than just fighting. This is a clever game stuffed with unique puzzle segments, interesting environments, hidden items, some light platforming. Torque meets so many fucking people here, but not everybody is his friend. At specific moments in the story, or whenever Torque is introduced to another person, there are these faint whispers that cloud your mind. One of the voices is Torque's wife, who urges you to help the person, while another voice taunts you and begs you to kill them.
Hold it right there, or I will cut you down! You hear me, inmate? Do you hear me?
Give him a chance.
Ah, to hell with protocol. Everything's gone to shit.
Man, it's good to see another human. Wait, what the fuck? Torque, is that you? Fuck, man, it's me, Dallas from Easton. Man, if anybody could survive this shit, it figures you could. You seen some of these things, man? Fucking whack shit. I heard the government's been conducting experiments on us inmates. Next phase of MK Ultra, if you can believe that shit. Now it's turned into the mother of all clusterfucks.
He needs your protection.
He's a parasite.
These subtle audio cues are executed so well, considering I had no idea that your choices matter at the end of this shindig. Every time Torque makes a good or bad decision, the screen will flash with a still image of the result. If you see Torque's wife, it means you did a good thing.
You the man, Torque! You the man!
Your soul is strong, T.
I already mentioned the random flashing images, but the creepiest one that I've seen is an image showing Torque hanging by the neck. This is a dark game, and it's not afraid to shock you at any given moment. The only thing is, I have no idea what the pictures mean. They flash so quickly and abruptly that it intentionally throws me off every time. Almost like a broken mind is trying to remember something, anything, but it's too clouded with hatred and violence. This game plays well with themes of grief, loss, vulnerability, anger, disgust, and questions your humanity every step of the way. Very rarely does a horror game happen to genuinely scare me. I hardly got creeped out due to half the shit I saw while growing up, but the suffering tends to steer me into a corner of uncertainty, discomfort, pain, and anxiety. They grant the player lots of power and a unique rage ability to let the inner demons out, but at the cost of forgetting who you were and possibly being trapped on Carnet Island as some sick, twisted ghost is far more haunting than any other horror game we've gotten within this year. There are lots of interesting chapters too. I liked roaming through the asylum with the cinematic ghost of Dr. Killjoy as he pushes Torque through a bunch of mental gymnastics. Sprinkled in other parts of this area are cameras that display a projected image of a caged door. Destroying these cameras will unlock other doors for you, which I thought was a really unique idea. Once you physically get to roam the outside of the prison, things aren't much better. Guards are being slaughtered, inmates are scattered, and the monsters keep coming. It might be less claustrophobic, but that doesn't matter when there's all kinds of shit coming after you still. I appreciate every aspect of Carnet Island. It's got so many layers inside of its gameplay, the player simply can't digest it all in one sitting. If you're looking for supplies, check those tight corners and abandoned rooms. There's always plenty of bullets to take the monsters out, and you'll have enough zombium to make a fucking corpse high. Some boss battles have really creative tactics that the player must figure out before it's too late. When you fight Hermes in the basement of the lighthouse, you have to plug up these vents with some heavy containers. Afterwards, use the steam pipe to blow that asshole into the furnace for good. Torque finds himself in all kinds of strange places, fighting different shit all over, but the end of the game is by far the most shocking of all. As it turns out, Torque never murdered his family. A group of rival gangsters broke into his home and attacked the only people he ever loved. Framed for the murders, he was put into Abbott Penitentiary to rot. That's pretty deep, man, but guess what? It gets deeper. The final boss of the Suffering is none other than the player themselves. Torque has to fight every fucking variation of his twisted psyche, from the primal rage form to his zombified corpse. Jesus Christ, can you imagine having to see this? And then it gets even fucking worse. Look at that giant goddamn thing. Can you imagine having to fight yourself in this form? That's one of the craziest concepts in gaming ever. You are literally confronting your inner demons. and there's no running away. It's such an intense battle, especially if you're at low health. This thing is so scary and intimidating that it doesn't even have a name in Clem's notebook. What you're supposed to do is use this thing called essence and throw it at the weird glowing heart on this fucker's chest. Do that enough, and the game is over. Torque is rescued by a Coast Guard who conveniently tells him that he received a fair chance at trial after being set up the first time. The game ends as he hangs his head, venturing toward the unknown. What a powerful fucking game. Even after all this time, it feels so good to say that I got to complete it. As a kid, I remember looking at Andy and thinking, this game's far too hard for me, and it made me shit myself. But I look back on that now, and I couldn't be more proud. That final boss section has to be one of the greatest. It's executed super well with the overall game's theme. You're led to believe that you've done something horrible, but that's all varied by the player's actions, which is a neat and interesting way of testing the player's humanity. Anybody can play this game and shoot their way past everything, including the good guys who depend on Torque for survival, but in doing so, you're basically proving the game's point. Actions made in anger cannot be undone. Torque's anger was his most powerful weapon. Though he will likely never see his wife and kids again, the story ends in a satisfying way and even offers a prelude level for the next run. It took me a decent amount of time to beat, clocking in at roughly 10 hours. If you want, you can replay the game on a harder difficulty and unlock further goodies like archive pages. There's lots of effort towards the lore aspect, and I respect they had all this information about this twisted, beautiful universe that they've concocted. This is one of the greatest horror games of our time, fit with so many special themes and mixed emotions. It's bloody, yet beautiful. Brutal, yet elegant. Stylish, but sad. And it's a wonderful reflection on a broken person's mind, as it asks the question, what does it mean to be guilty? I'm happy I got to share this experience with all of you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.